Hi there, I'm Kat.
And I'm Derek. Welcome to Chit Chat with Derek and Kat.
We're your backstage pass into the world of family businesses. The real stories, the real challenges, and everything that makes these businesses thrive across generations.
Each week, we'll sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, service providers, and family dynasties to swap stories, dig into some lessons, and have some laughs along the way.
So whether you're part of a family business, dreaming of starting one, or you just love a good success story, you're in the right place.
So let's get into it. It's time for Chit Chat with Derek and Kat. Welcome back to Chit Chat with Derek and Kat. I am Derek Volk, and I am here with Catherine Wygant Fawcett.
Hi, nice to see you.
We are here with Larry Grondin, and we are going to talk about family business because that's what we do here on Chit Chat with Derek and Kat. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a family business podcast. We are sponsored by the Institute for Family-Owned Business, which Catherine is the executive director of, and I am a member of, a very proud member of. And what we like to do here on Chit Chat with Derek and Kat is talk to Maine's family businesses, and there are a lot of them. They are very successful, and none better than Gronin Sons. So welcome to the show, Larry.
Hey, thank you for having me today. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's great to have you on our first podcast here. So a video cast because you get to see us as well. So congratulations. You guys were the Rennie's Large Business Award winners last year and your third generation. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family business?
Yes, certainly humbled to be the winner of the big category. So as far as RJ Grondin Sons, we are now, as of 2 Januaries ago, a fourth generation company. I represent the third generation company. RJ Grondin's the first generation was my Pepe, Robert Joseph Grondin, who was a dairy farmer originally in Westbrook and then moved to our current location in Gorham. And then my dad and uncle in the 50s said, you know, we can make couple more pennies with digging some dirt and rather than selling milk. So in the late 50s, that transformation happened. And then there's been multiple generations since with sons, and there was 5 of us in the business at one point years ago, and down to 2 now. So my cousins, my previous business partner who just retired a couple years ago, his son-in-law is now my newest business partner.
So that was Bob, and he was on a succession program with us last year to talk about
correct.
that transition.
Yeah, last December it was with a chat with you guys, which we attended. It was a good chat.
So how did you go from the 5 to the 2? That's interesting because years ago I was at a meeting with my father and my uncle talking about the future of our company. And my father or my uncle said something about, well, if all of our kids want to join the business, and the lawyer stopped us, we were a much smaller company. This was 25 years ago. And he said, my lawyer stopped us and said, hold on a second. I want to make sure you guys understand. This company is not big enough for 5 Volks. So you better hope all your kids don't join this business. And so I'm curious, how did you go from 5 to 2? Was it retirement?
So I'll first explain how we got to 5. So it was my dad and uncle, and then my uncle had 3 of his boys join, and then my dad, it was me and my brother that joined. 2 of the retirements were totally planned. 2 basically were not. Just literally fell in love and moved to Massachusetts because that was really the only option because of certain circumstances. But like any business, particularly family business, you have to have a good succession plan and you have to have a good shareholder agreement, which I think we did back when Bob and Phil were starting to retire in the early 2000s. They did an amazing job with that. Literally a couple farmers, running a multi-million-dollar business said, well, we're going to have to spend a few bucks on lawyers and consultants and whatnot, which set the stage for the rest of the generations because we obviously saw the value in that. And then you just have to structure the deal that, if it doesn't work, then nobody wins. So we've had some fairly longer than industry normal buyouts, but if the numbers don't work, the numbers don't work. So that's kind of what had to happen. So all those things put together, we've made it work. So we just finished one buyout recently. We've got a couple more coming up in a couple years. So we've managed, it's all about cash flow, like any business, right? So that's how we did it.
So one of the people that you worked with, I believe, was Frank O'Shea from Barry Dunn, who is now
Correct. Yep.
since retired, and he was our treasurer here at the IFOB when I first joined.
Yep. And he's semi-retired because he's still working with us.
Okay. Yeah, he's retired from Barry Dunn, but he's being a consultant.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
He has a small handful of clients. He helped us with our last transition with Bob. And then we're already starting to look forward, to the next, 10 years.
So how many different consultants did you use on that team? So Frank was representing he was like the quarterback maybe for it going through, and then had attorneys
basically on this one because we'd already done a lot of the legwork with prior shareholder agreements. So we had multiple precedents set on, business valuation, which obviously is very important. So really, you'd have to have a pretty long conversation to change that. Seems how, 3 people had already basically used the same model. Actually, like 4 or 5 had used a similar model. So, and basically everyone knew they'd already agreed to it. So it really wasn't much of a, it wasn't contentious in any way, which is.
And what was that time frame? How long did that take you to get to that structure?
So the legwork was really planted when my dad and uncle retired in 2001. So that's when that, and then, as the generations go, obviously you have to tweak the agreement, but the bones were there. It's just small tweaks on, percentages of what's a majority because the numbers have changed and things like that. But the bones of the agreement pretty much stayed intact, and that's how we made it work. And then you had to negotiate back to the numbers, cash flow, et cetera, et cetera.
So speaking of back to the numbers and cash flow, tell us a little about your business. Who's your ideal client? Who's your target market? How do you sell? How do you compete in a I'm guessing a very competitive business?
Sure. So we're a heavy civil earthworking contractor. We do a lot of heavy highway for both DOT, Department of Transportation, and Maine Turnpike Authority. We do a lot of commercial site work, whether it's hospitals, schools, multifamily housing, and a lot of underground utility work. Water mains, sewer mains. So we work with a lot of different GCs. From the Consiglis and the Chimbros to Wright Ryan, and there's many more to list. And then we'll work, so typically we're a subcontractor, excavating and backfilling for foundations, all the utilities. And then on the flip side, when we're doing, heavy highway work for DOT or MTA, we're the general contractor and hiring out subs to do the work. Because, we do earthwork, we do it fast, we do it efficiently, we do it really, really well. So, but we'll hire out paving, we'll hire out striping, flagging, et cetera, et cetera. So, we definitely have our selects. A lot of work we do is bid. So like DOT, obviously it's taxpayer dollars. So it's always the lower bidder, but you have to pre-qualify. So not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can bid the work. But, and then the flip side is, you have good relationships with your GCs. Still, most of the time they need to go to bid because of financing, and that's what the banks require. But still, you still have your preferred guys and gals that you work with. So,
do you have sales reps that go out and seek that business, or is that something that's done by the GCs bring the business to you and then you have to just try to get it?
It's really both ways. I mean, we're in our 66th year, and as you know, Maine is a pretty small town. So, we're pretty well established. Pretty much everyone knows who everybody is. They know what we're capable of. Every now and then there'll be a up and coming GC that, is growing, and, and then you'll have to go out and reach out to them and like on a business development front. And that's some of what I do. Our project managers are honestly are some of our best salesmen because of the work they do, and they work with our clients. Literally coordinating the work with them, and scheduling, and and then you build a rapport. And we also do outside sales for aggregates. We operate our own pits and quarries and gravel pits in southern Maine. We have about 9, so we have one guy that just looks over that whole. It's not literally a separate division, but we track outside sales compared to our own use very closely. So that's how we do our sales, if you will. But a lot of it's bid work. So.
I was just recently at Nonsuch Brewing Company, and I saw a lot of your signs on the fences there. Can you tell us about what you're building over there?
Yes, 8 Corners. We're doing 2 projects, 2 different owners. The one right on the corner that's very, very visible is multifamily condos. I believe there's 64 units in there with a common clubhouse.
Wow.
And then just down the street, near where like the Lowe's and Walmart entrances, there's a hotel, Liveaway Suites Hotel. Seems kind of like a weird spot for a hotel, but I'm sure somebody's done their market analysis, and I'm sure they'll do just fine. But
close to the mall in the airport, I guess.
yes, exactly. But it's funny because that little patch of woods there at 8 Corners, I don't care what your age is, that corner has always been trees.
Yes.
I've talked to many people, and we've done projects like the Maine Turnpike toll booth, the Maine toll booth down in York, high profile jobs. I've probably gotten more questions on that single job because that lot has always been trees for everybody's whole life, and they're like, "What's going in there?" So it's pretty comical that one little site job that's relatively small in our world is gotten a lot of, "Hey, what's that?" Pretty funny.
So you said you're 4th generation. Who's the next generation? You're 3rd?
Sean O'Leary is my new business partner. So Bob Gronin, who Catherine was talking about, worked for us for 48 years. We're first cousins. He's on the older side of the cousins, and I'm on the younger side of the cousins. So he retired 2 Januaries ago. And so now part of that transition was he redeemed some of his company shares, and then he gifted some of his company shares. So now Sean is a part owner of RJ Grondin Sons. So being that it's his son-in-law, he's now technically the 4th generation. Not a Grondin, but still family.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's very rare to get to the 4th generation.
Yes. And I also have a son who's graduating high school that has expressed some interest, going to college next fall. So I'm not fully committed, but it's it's a possibility. It's in the cards. So he too would be 4th generation, but but there'd be a let's see, 22 or 23-year gap, similar to me and Bob, actually, because we were about that 25-year gap between the two of us. So very similar situation, even though it's the same generation.
Yeah, that's interesting because my grandfather and father started the company, and then my uncle joined, and my uncle and my father were 10 years apart, which isn't anywhere near 25.
Right.
But my father always says we're really like a 4th generation company because my brother and I were basically 2 generations. I grew up in the 50s. He grew up in the 60s. We had very different upbringings, almost like 2 different generations, but technically not.
Right.
Do you have any plans for family members or people entering into the family business, or do they need to go outside of the family business first or come in? What are the rules of engagement to come in and out of the family business?
Rules of engagement.
Yes. Rules of engagement. I like the way you put that. It sounds like you're going to battle.
Derek has a good one about over 40, so ask him about that.
That's funny. Every family does it different, right?
Yeah.
As far as I have 2 kids, I have an older daughter. She's had no interest. She's more of a science related gal. She, has no interest in this, and that's fine. That's your choice. I'm not going to make you do that. My son is very business minded, very hands on. He can just tear apart almost anything and put it back together, and it'll work right. So he's definitely has that mindset. So, and again, it's your choice. Here's an opportunity, but I'm not going to make you do it. I'm going to let you know about it, but that's it. It's totally your choice. Once you get to that point, then it's okay, well, what route do I take? So like one of his questions was, he wanted to go to college. That's fine. He's like, well, do I do, construction management or do I do, like business management? I said, well, that's kind of up to you. Do you want to do the more hands-on theoretically in school, or would you rather just learn it in the field during summers, which he started last summer, and then do more of the business side? Because eventually, yes, he'll be in the field, no doubt. Was on a hand shovel and a rake last summer. That's where everybody starts. And
and that's where you started too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I've done most positions in the company, not all, but most. From rock crushers to, running crews as a foreman to a laborer, on day one in high school.
So do you drive bulldozers and dump trucks?
Absolutely.
I used to do that at my camp in Massachusetts.
Nice.
D2 Caterpillar
Fun, right?
Yeah, awesome. Loved it.
So I don't get on them very much, but I do make a point to get on them a few times a year.
And now they have all the technical ones like that are all digitized. Like you can tell them the GPS and how much you want to dig down and what you can do with it.
Most of our larger pieces have all GPS controls, and
Did you always want to join the business, or did you look at doing other things at some point?
I mean, I think growing up, it's one of those things that, you don't know what you don't know, but, I always liked the work. I started the summer after my sophomore year because being a safety sensitive business, you usually can't start till you're 18, but if you're the owner's son, you can start earlier in safety sensitive things. So I started in 91 when summer after my sophomore year. So, really liked the crew, really liked the people. So once I got to that point and saw, because you always have this vision of what the company is when you're just a kid growing up, right? You see what you see, but then when you're out there doing the work and you're working with the crews and, you see the camaraderie. I think that happened for my son too, because he wasn't really committal until after he worked for us last summer for the first time. He's like, I think I could do this. And I think I had a similar experience. Knew I wanted to go to college, if nothing else, to grow up a little bit. Get out of Maine a little bit too. I mean, there's always a little itch there, and that's my son's doing a similar path. But that was kind of so it's never an automatic, because dealing with family can be tough sometimes. 5 people running the same business, so that's one example. But we did it. We kind of focused on our own specialty, and then came back in the middle for business related stuff that, and all had to agree. But, I will admit that, and I think everyone would admit, 2's easier than 5.
Yeah. It's interesting that what you were talking about your son and his impressions of the company, because during COVID, my daughter and her boyfriend moved back home with us, and he was bored. They were sitting around, there was nothing to do, and they had nowhere to go. And so a few times, he was a business major at UMaine, so I brought him in to work, and he sat in on some meetings, and we're at dinner one night, and he was all excited about his day, and he was telling everybody all about the meetings that he attended. And my daughters were laughing hysterically because they're like, how can you think that boxes are that interesting? And what I said to my daughters was, Solomon learned something today that you guys still don't seem to get. I don't spend my day talking about boxes. It's about leadership. It's about decision making. It's about planning, how we take care of our customers. I don't sit around talking about actual boxes pretty much most of the day. And I'm guessing that you don't spend your day talking about dirt.
That's correct. It's about relationships.
It's about relationships. It's about leading people. It's about figuring out what the direction of the company is going to be and doing all those kinds of things so that somebody else can spend their day talking about dirt or boxes.
That's right. You have R&D folks for that.
That's right. Exactly.
Right. How do I corrugate this? Yeah. And how all those things interact with your community.
Right.
The even bigger picture.
Tell us about your role in the community. How do you consider yourself as an active corporate citizen?
We donate to most teams that sports teams, and just particularly Gorham, Scarborough, where my kids have grown up, Westbrook. So multiple towns, multiple teams. You know, we've did United Way for many, many, many years. You know, some of these natural disasters will have people kick in and the company will match it. You know, those are just one of many, many examples. We've done a ton of work, like at some of the Boy Scout camps. I served on their board for 8 or 10 years. A bunch of our folks, you know, not just ownership, but, you know, project managers and folks in leadership, coach baseball teams, like many, many, many of them. And of course, that involves leaving work a little early often, you know, come springtime in baseball and softball, and we support that. We think it's very important. So yeah, there's many other forms of it, and we're on various boards for the industry. I know that's not quite the community, but it's still you're supporting your industry,
sure,
which is a different community, but yeah. So I'm on a bunch of different boards, and you know others. Our controller, treasurer is on 2 different boards, and yeah. So example after example, it's you gotta make the time.
Yeah, that's right. It's great that this is our 50th year sponsoring Little League, and there's nothing I love more than walking in a Hannaford and seeing a kid in a Volk Packaging Little League shirt. Doesn't that feel great?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And Jake's going to be one of our judges for the awards this year that you guys
won
last year.
Excellent.
Yeah. So he'll get to read the applications and the pieces that you put in, and he'll get to see that side of it.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
What's the next steps for your business? Where do you see what are your 3 or 5 year plans?
Yeah, so we've been working on that with Frank O'Shea, who's been with IFOB for many, many years. Really, in a nutshell, just organic growth. You know, not skyrocket growth, but definitely some organic growth, whether it's geographically or just within our own bubble that we're already in. We're focusing on aggregates because part of our transition was I was heavily involved with that prior to Bob retiring. So now we have a dedicated position to just that. So that's one small piece of it besides, the obvious earthwork and highway work and whatnot. You know, and then even longer term, it's, we'll have to start at least considering, how does the 3rd generation think about retiring? I know it's a little early, but you can never start too early.
We always ask people to start much sooner than they think they need to.
Right. So, I mean, I'm 50 this year. Not that we're starting active planning, but it's like, all right, well, we got to at least throw out a couple ideas and, stew on it for 6 or 8 months and then, maybe revisit it, next year and whatever.
Do you have multi-generational employees too within your company? Like, do you hire employees that are, that their parents or others might be in the business?
Oh yeah, we have one family in particular. There's 4 Spearans that work for us. There's a dad, a daughter, and 2 of his nephews work for us. So that's the running joke is, there could be a coup d'etat because, there's more Spearans than Grondins. But wonderful family. So obviously a firm believer in what we're doing, and they're all amazing people. 2 are foremen for us out in the field. The daughter is our QC manager for aggregates. And then we have a guy that, runs one of our pits up in Wyndham. So just an amazing family. And we had 5 at one point because the dad's and uncle, his brother worked for us too. So there was 5 at one point. So yeah.
We had a situation. I used to make the same coup d'etat joke because we had a family of 5 brewers that were working here. Yeah. And I used to joke that I was going to come in one day and it was going to say brewer packaging on the side of the building.
Yeah, no, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah.
So do you think that helps you with being a family-owned business with recruitment or retention of people? Like, what is the family business advantage? Why?
I think we're a large company, but we're not so large that, we know all of our employees' names. We know most of their wives' names, half of their kids' names, not all of them. It's pretty hard once you get down there, but we have many folks. We just had a guy retire in December who worked here for 43 years. Bob worked here for 48. We still have some guys. We have a couple guys that are at 38 and 39 years. We have multiple over 30. And it's for a reason, right? I mean, they're making decent money, but they appreciate, what they're worth to this company, and they're appreciated, and, they've made a career here. So it's more than just making a buck. It's more about the camaraderie with your peers, the attitude or lack thereof, positive attitude or not having a bad attitude. So I think it's a lot of different reasons, but I think that's the highlights.
That's terrific.
So I wondered, do you have some advice that you would give to a family-owned business?
Well, I mean, back to the shareholder agreement. I mean, if for any reason things don't go smoothly, at least you have a legal document that can guide you through things. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Thankfully it didn't in our case, but in the same breath, it was always good to have that guiding document for, it's, when you do day-to-day stuff, you don't think about that, right? And hire a consultant. Even if you have a shareholder agreement, review it every 5 years. Just read it over. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. And yeah, consultants cost money. They're not cheap, but they're worth their weight in gold because they've seen many, many other situations, and they've seen what works and they've seen what doesn't work. So they can help guide you through that, and they can help dissipate any kind of, I don't know if animosity is the right word, but any hard to talk about subjects, they can kind of.
You don't have any of those in family business,
never.
right?
No.
No.
So,
well, I
like
always find it funny because family businesses are very private, and they think they have unique challenges, and then they get in one of the rooms with our peer groups, and they're like, "Oh yeah," so
a lot of
there's
similarities,
good and bad, and outside people can help.
Yeah. So that would be my recommendation, and then just communicate, like anything though. Just communication is key.
We're on Chit Chat with Derek and Kat, if you're just joining us, and we're talking to Larry Grondin from RJ Grondin Sons. Before we finish up, we've got a few lightning round questions for you, and we'll head to those. But if someone wanted to talk to you about your business, talk to you about doing some work for you, how would they reach you? What's your contact information? Give us all that kind of jazz.
Sure. We're on Instagram. We have a website, rjgrondin.com. We're on Facebook. We're even on TikTok. So we very active social media wise, as well as the good old fashioned phone book. We're not that there's paper phone books anymore, but
we can Google you. You're on the IFB website. So.
Yeah, very active on social media. We try to keep up with we do keep up with our website. So a bunch of different projects we've done over the last, 5 or 8, 7 years. So that's neat to see as well. And, and of course, drop right in. We're at 11 Bartlett on Gore, Maine. Been there since the 40s is when this farm started there. So where our maintenance shop sits up on the hill, used to be this massive barn, and I'm told at one point it was the largest barn in the state.
Really?
But now, over time, that half of it burned at one point, and so. But the maintenance shop, as it sits, other than the 2 new bays we built 4 years ago, sits on the same foundation that the barn sat on back in the 40s and 50s.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
All right, you want to hit the lightning round questions?
Lightning round. What saying are you known for?
What saying?
What saying are you known for?
Probably one of my dads that he would always say, he'd be like, most any situation, he's like, I think everything's going to be all right. It could be the worst situation or, just some mediocre thing and be like, I think everything's going to be all right. Just always had a good attitude. And
That's great.
And one thing that I'm often caught saying in the office is great day, great day. So I'd say those two.
I always say it's a beautiful day to sell corrugated.
I say, stick with me, kid. You'll have
Not
fun.
many people can say that. Yeah.
Okay. You want to ask him a second?
Sure. Share one interesting fact or experience that would never show up in your formal bio that shaped your success.
Shaped my success. Well, I think navigating a family business with 4 other owners.
Yes.
That would do it.
That would do it.
I mean,
Okay,
we've talked about it, but it's not something we actively throw out to the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what books, podcasts, or periodicals do you read or listen to for ongoing learning? What kind of sources do you have for ongoing learning?
Other than chit chat with Derek and
yes,
Kat.
other than us.
Other than the chit chat, right? Just a lot of industry related stuff. We get, Pit and Quarry magazine. We get Maine Trails from MBTA. A bunch of our trade associations do like a quarterly magazine. So read a lot of those. Read the news every day, but not a huge free reader as far as just free reading books. I tend to read more of industry related stuff. I've always been like that. When I was a kid growing up, they're like, you need to read more. I was reading stuff. It just wasn't like some random book about who knows what. That's just what I've always gravitated to. But so mostly trade magazines and related things.
Right.
Okay, what Netflix show are you watching?
Right now, nothing. We were watching, what was that scary one? I forget the name of it already. It's over now. It's really the only one we got hooked on Netflix. We were watching, the names, it's really scary. And my kids,
really scary.
When we started watching it, my kids were like 14 and 16. And I was like, why are we watching this?
Oh, that's funny.
But whatever, they grow up eventually, right?
Yeah, exactly. They were watching it with or without you, probably.
Right, exactly. So you might as well be there with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on our show. We really appreciate it. We've been talking to Larry Grondin from RJ Grondin Sons, a terrific family business, a member of the Institute for Family-Owned Business, and the winner of last year's Large Family Business of the Year Award.
Yes, congratulations again for the Rennie's Large Business Award, and always nice to see you. Thanks for all you do for us.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'm humbled by it. Cheers.
Stay tuned next week for more with Chit Chat
with Derek
and Kat.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Chit Chat with Derek and Kat. If you loved hearing today's family business story, don't forget to follow the show and leave us a review. It helps more people find these amazing stories. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Want to learn more about the families and service providers we feature, or get involved with the Institute for Family-Owned Business or Vogue Packaging Corporation? Visit fambusiness.org, fambusiness.org. We'll see you next time on Chit Chat with Derek and Kat.